Good afternoon, this is Sean Golding with Golding & Golding here to provide a mid-year 2025 update to FBAR penalties, what's going on, who gets hit with them, how can you challenge them, what are the penalties. So let's start with who has to file the FBAR, right? Typically it's going to be U.S. persons, includes individuals and entities, trusts, things of that nature. Typically individuals are going to be U.S. citizens, lawful permanent residents, foreign nationals who meet the substantial presence test. If taxpayer is overseas and they make a treaty election, they may try to take the position under ROS Day that they don't have to file the FBAR, but the IRS still does not agree with that position. Civil non-willful penalties. These are going to be the most common types of penalties. You'll hear about willfulness in criminal as well, but I would say 90+% of penalties that are issued for FBAR are civil non-willful. Now, under Bittner, the 2023 Supreme Court case no longer allows the IRS to get you per account. It's only limited to form. So let's say you had a 2024 FBAR, 2023 FBAR, and you had 20 accounts on there. You didn't file it, you filed it late, you got hit with a penalty. They used to be able to get you per account. Now they're limited to per form or per year. And it's $10,000 per year. That amount adjusts for inflation, so now it's higher than that, $16,000, but it's $10,000 penalty. In order for them to show that you're non-willful, it's basically a totality of the circumstance. You look at all the facts together, history of filing, did you use a professional, what kind of accounts did you miss? If you missed, how many accounts did you miss? Things of that nature. Is it your first year as a U.S. person? Did you just open the accounts? And you take all those facts together, and then based on the totality of the circumstances, will determine whether it's non-willful or not. Now, one thing about non-willfulness is because oftentimes it is due to a mistake, assuming that you can't show reasonable cause, there is more leniency in order to get the penalty avoided, mitigated, reduced, things of that nature. Now, civil willfulness in criminals is a much different arena. To start, criminal is rare. 99% of the time, FBAR penalties are not going to be criminal, and when they are criminal, they typically involve other issues as well: money laundering, structuring, smurfing, evasion, fraud, things of that nature. If the IRS can prove you're willful, then the penalties can be much higher. It's either $100,000, which also adjusts for inflation, so again, it's much higher now than the $100,000, or 50%, whichever is higher. So if you only had $80,000 in a foreign account, and your 50% penalty would be $40,000, but the IRS can come back and go, no, it's $100,000 or 50%, whichever is higher, and try to hit you with the $100,000 penalty. And if that adjusted for inflation, depending on the year, you could be closer to $150,000. The IRS has less room to mitigate the agents. Why? Because the position that a lot of the supervisors tend to take is, hey, if you're willful, we could potentially do a criminal investigation. So, you're better off just accepting these willfulness penalties, civil willfulness, paying the 50% and be done. So you always want to try to challenge willfulness if you're put into that position, but it might be hard. So for taxpayers who are out of compliance for failing to file the FBAR, filing it late, before they get penalized, before they're under audit, there are some amnesty programs that they can submit to try to get themselves into compliance. There's something called the streamlined procedures. Let's start with VDP. VDP is the voluntary disclosure program. It's primarily for taxpayers who are willful, trying to avoid criminal investigation. Why? Because the penalties are high, much higher than streamlined. 50% penalty for the highest year, then you got a 75% fraud penalty, and they're not very lenient on those penalties. So if you get hit with those, if you do VDP, you're going to get hit with those penalties. That's pretty much it. The streamlined procedures, depending on which program that you apply to, that you qualify for, you either pay a 5% penalty in lieu of all the other FBAR and FACA penalties you would otherwise pay, or if you qualify for streamlined foreign, there might be no penalty at all. There's also something called the delinquency procedures and reasonable cause, depending on your facts and circumstances. We have a ton of free information available on our main website and our sub-websites. You can always reach out and schedule a reduced fee initial consultation if it's appropriate to your matter, and it's something that we handle here. Again, my name is Sean Golding with Golding & Golding. Thank you for your time. Enjoy the rest of your day.